Having a partner after 60 can sometimes be more harmful than helpful. Let's talk about something that isn't often discussed. Most of us have been told throughout our lives that love and companionship are essential for happiness and that being alone as we get older is something to avoid at all costs. But what if that's not the whole truth? What if, as we grow older, having a partner might actually cause more harm than good? In the earlier stages of life, having a partner brings stability, shared responsibilities, and a sense of direction. However, after 60, things change. You might not realize it, but your relationship could start to feel more like a burden than a source of joy. If you're not careful, staying in a relationship could bring you more stress, exhaustion, and regret instead of happiness, peace, and fulfillment. At this stage of life, you've spent decades fulfilling responsibilities towards your family, career, and community. You've managed the challenges of partnership, parenting, and professional life. But now, a shift occurs. Your time is no longer controlled by work demands or the needs of your children. It finally belongs to you. The big question is, what will you do with it? One of the most overlooked difficulties in maintaining a relationship later in life is the amount of time it demands. Managing a partnership takes a lot of effort and energy, and when you're older, this can feel even more draining. Staying single after 60 could offer you more freedom, better health, and surprisingly, even more happiness than being tied to a relationship that no longer serves you. Many people believe that companionship automatically makes life better, but they often overlook the cost both in terms of personal freedom and emotional energy. Being in a relationship, even a good one, means you are constantly balancing your time. You can't just wake up and decide to go on a spontaneous trip, spend the whole day on your hobbies, or enjoy a peaceful evening alone if that's what you feel like doing. You have to think about the other person's needs, desires, and routines. For some, this is a fair trade, but for others, especially those who have been in long-term relationships for many years, it can feel like going back to obligations. The wonderful thing about reaching this stage in life is that you can finally live life on your own terms. No more waiting for someone else to be ready before you leave the house. No more compromising on dinner plans or weekend activities. No more guilt about wanting to be alone when you need it. Another factor to consider is energy. Time is one thing, but energy is something else. Relationships, even the best ones, require effort to communicate, resolve conflicts, and support each other emotionally. But as you get older, you may find you no longer have the patience for unnecessary arguments or the energy to constantly adjust to someone else's preferences. This isn't selfish, it's being self-aware. Now, ask yourself, if you only have 20 or 30 years left, would you rather spend that time growing personally, experiencing new things, and strengthening friendships? Or would you prefer to spend it negotiating everyday life with a partner who may not always meet your changing needs? It's a personal decision, but it's a question worth asking. Once you realize how valuable your time is, staying single no longer feels like a sacrifice, it feels like a chance to truly live. Relationships, at any stage, come with costs, some visible and some hidden. When you're younger, you may not notice these costs as much because the benefits seem to outweigh them. But after 60, the balance changes. As we grow older, the emotional toll of being in a partnership can become more obvious, and often, it can feel more like a burden than a reward. When you merge your life with someone else's, you take on their habits, responsibilities, and sometimes their problems. Even if you've worked hard to build a stable financial future for yourself, introducing a partner into the mix complicates things. They may have debts, different spending habits, or different ideas on how money should be managed. Suddenly, the money you thought was secure for your retirement could be tied up in joint expenses, medical costs, or even obligations to their family. If you've worked hard for financial independence, a relationship in later life can put that independence at risk. Another concern is the legal and logistical side of things. What happens to your assets, inheritances, or estates if your partner needs long-term care? Would you be responsible for their medical bills? If they mismanage finances, does that affect your stability? These are tough questions, but they need to be asked. Many assume that love will solve these problems, but the truth is that financial strain can create a lot of stress, even in the strongest relationships. Beyond money, emotional energy is a big factor at this stage in life. Emotional peace becomes incredibly valuable. Relationships take patience, understanding, and compromise. You have to deal with someone else's moods, worries, and personal struggles. While this might have felt natural earlier in life, it can become draining as you age. If you've already spent decades supporting others, this can feel overwhelming. Raising children, maintaining a household, or managing professional relationships, you might find that you no longer want the emotional labor of constantly tending to a partner's needs. There's a deep sense of relief in knowing that your happiness is entirely in your own hands. You don't have to worry about another person's expectations, disappointments, or demands. You can create a life that prioritizes your well-being without guilt. Relationships can be wonderful, but they also come with burdens that, past a certain age, may not be worth carrying. The freedom to make decisions based solely on what's best for you is not just a luxury, it's a form of self-preservation. There's a fundamental shift that happens as you age, though many don't realize it until they experience it firsthand. When you're younger, relationships offer a sense of stability, security, and purpose. You build a life around someone else, create routines together, and make compromises in the name of companionship. But after 60, something else becomes more valuable than security: freedom, the ability to make choices without negotiation, to move through life at your own pace, and to prioritize your own needs above anyone else's, becomes more appealing and, in many cases, more necessary. When you're in a relationship, even a good one, you're always adjusting. You have to consider another person's habits, routines, and desires. Maybe they like to watch TV late into the night while you prefer quiet. Maybe they enjoyed big social gatherings while you're content with solitude. Maybe they have health issues that require time and attention. Whatever the specifics, the reality is that being in a relationship means giving up a certain level of personal autonomy. At 60 and beyond, you begin to understand how precious autonomy really is. You don't have to check in with someone before making plans. You don't have to feel guilty about prioritizing your own interests, whether that means traveling alone, reading all day, or simply enjoying your own company. You don't have to deal with the small daily compromises that seem insignificant in the moment but add up over time. You're free to structure your life exactly how you want without friction or negotiation. There's also an important psychological component to this. After decades of fulfilling obligations, whether to family, work, or partners, you finally reach a stage where you don't have to meet anyone else's expectations. There's no pressure to be a certain kind of partner, no responsibility to maintain someone else's happiness, no need to constantly consider another person's emotional state. You are, for perhaps the first time in your life, fully in control of your own well-being. Many people fear that staying single later in life means loneliness, but the truth is loneliness isn't about whether or not you have a partner. It's about whether or not you're living in alignment with what truly makes you happy. And for many, that happiness comes not from being with someone, but from the ability to wake up every day and live life on their own terms, without restriction, expectation, or compromise. As you age, your health becomes your most valuable asset. After 60, every decision you make should be weighed against one crucial question: does this bring me peace or stress? Relationships, even when they're fulfilling, come with a degree of emotional and mental labor that can directly impact your well-being. The hidden cost of companionship is often stress from disagreements, from differing expectations, from the daily effort it takes to maintain harmony with another person. And stress, as research consistently shows, is one of the most damaging factors to both physical and mental health. In a relationship, you're not just managing your own emotions, you're also managing someone else's. You absorb their worries, frustrations, and anxieties whether you want to or not. When your partner has a bad day, it becomes your responsibility to console them. When they have health issues, you become their caretaker. When they have financial concerns, it affects your sense of security. None of this is inherently bad, but it does take a toll. Over time, the accumulation of small tensions, compromising on decisions, adjusting to different habits, dealing with unspoken resentments, can lead to chronic stress, and chronic stress has real consequences: higher blood pressure, weakened immune function, increased risk of heart disease, and even cognitive decline. Beyond the physical effects, stress also impacts the way you experience life. A peaceful mind leads to a fulfilling existence, and past a certain age, peace should be the priority. Imagine waking up in the morning and feeling complete ease, no arguments waiting to happen, no concerns about how someone else will react to your choices, no need to navigate emotional complexities that drain your energy. That kind of freedom allows for real rest, real joy, and real health. People often assume that a relationship provides comfort and security, but comfort isn't the same as peace. Many people in long-term relationships find themselves dealing with unnecessary tension, carrying emotional burdens they never expected, and feeling trapped in routines that no longer bring them happiness. Being single eliminates that stress. You set your own rhythm, protect your own energy, and surround yourself with people who uplift you without the complications of romantic obligation. A stress-free life isn't just a luxury, it's a necessity for longevity, and the freedom to live without the emotional demands of a relationship can be the very thing that keeps you happier, healthier, and truly at peace. One of the biggest myths about aging is that being single means being lonely. Society has conditioned people to believe that a romantic partner is the primary source of companionship and fulfillment, but this simply isn't true, especially after 60. In reality, social connections, friendships, and community engagement are far more important to long-term happiness and well-being than a romantic relationship. The quality of your relationships matters far more than whether they fit into the traditional mold of a romantic partnership. As people get older, their needs change. What once seemed essential, such as the security of a life partner, often becomes less significant than the freedom to build meaningful connections on their own terms. Friendships offer emotional support without the complexities of romance. They don't require constant negotiation, compromise, or caretaking in the same way a romantic relationship does. Instead, they allow for genuine companionship without expectation. A strong network of friends can provide laughter, conversation, and adventure without the emotional strain that often comes with living day in and day out with a partner. Community involvement also plays a major role in personal fulfillment. Many older adults find that engaging in clubs, volunteering, or participating in social groups provides a deeper sense of belonging than a romantic relationship ever could. These connections are built around shared interests and mutual respect rather than obligation. There's no pressure to meet someone else's needs in the way that happens in a romantic partnership, and that freedom allows for richer, more fulfilling social experiences. Another critical factor is the ability to prioritize oneself. In a romantic relationship, even in later years, there is often an expectation to make decisions together, to take on each other's problems, and to adjust to another person's emotional world. Without that pressure, single individuals can invest their energy in themselves, exploring hobbies, traveling, learning new skills, and spending time with the people who truly bring them joy. Instead of pouring effort into maintaining a relationship, they can focus on cultivating a life that is full, independent, and deeply satisfying. Ultimately, the idea that a romantic partner is necessary for a fulfilling life is outdated. People over 60 who choose to remain single are not missing out. They are embracing a way of living that prioritizes personal peace, strong friendships, and the freedom to shape their own destiny. Happiness is not found in conforming to societal expectations, but in creating a life that is truly fulfilling on one's own terms.